Hello and welcome back to another episode of Mystery Red Reads. I am your host, Mystery Red, and this is a trigger warning. This story covers material that may be upsetting to some viewers and readers. This is my disclaimer. This beta read in concrete is at the author's request. This video is for learning purposes. Today we're looking at a piece of original fiction. We're looking at a piece for a new author. We are going to look at chapter 1 of Ethical Dining by Alexandria. The genre is sci-fi fantasy. Let's see. Sci-fi fantasy, post-apocalyptic dystopia, lesbian fiction, short story, novelette. Word count just shy of 7,500 words. We have a trigger warning for substance use, violence, death, cannibalism, allusion to religion, more so found in other texts in the series. So let's see. So I've got this one open over here. And we are just going to make sure that we are in suggesting mode before we get started. And I'm going to warn you all. So this is like my third attempt to start this video and I keep messing everything up. So I keep thinking I need to just warm up. Usually it's my mouth when we're talking and I start like not reading right as we first get started. And then as I go, I find my groove. And then, this morning, it's just rainy. I've had a bizarre morning. My kids have finally gone back to school, but now my sister, who is disabled, is sick, so I'm taking care of her. And I've been trying to read some, to get ready to do a read, this read, and I have I think 9. I have 9 reads in my queue right now and 1 pending, so possibly 10. And I was organizing them and trying to get prepared. I had microphone problems, including accidentally disconnecting it, knocking it over. I'm a mess this morning. So we're going to see if we can pull it together. I don't know what I need. I don't know, but we're going to, maybe it's getting up at 4 a.m. this morning because that's when my day started. Okay. So Alexandria reached out to me after listening to a couple of my videos and asked me if I'd be interested in looking at this or another piece that they have. We talked about it and this is what they chose. So the title is Ethical Dining. So I'm going to do this just like any other read. I have not looked ahead. As you guys know, I try to get the bare minimum of information so that I can give a first impression. My goal whenever someone is just starting with me is I just want you to know that everything I say comes from a kind place, that I want the best for you. So my very first impression, this is the cover of your novel, and I'm looking at it. I'm thinking about it. I'm not really sure about the title first, because when I saw Ethical Dining, the first thing that I thought of was, is this a cookbook? Is this recipes? Is what is on the menu, should I say? And then when I read your warning and it says cannibalism, I am afraid, okay? I'm like, I don't know about this, okay? I don't know. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say cannibalism on YouTube. This could be really interesting. We're going to see what happens here. So, I'm not against a simple title. I'm not sure if are you wanting to go to print? Like, are you expecting to print copies? And, I don't know. I guess, because you are publishing this, or you have published this, I'm anticipating that you want me to be kind of hard on you. So, and I'm saying that because if you're self-publishing, that's one thing. I mean, you should always have the highest standard for yourself whenever you're publishing anything. And if you're doing it on your own, you especially want it to be very, very good. I mean, you just want a very high standard for the quality of work that you put out, because you're building your name. I don't know if you have other pieces that are published. I don't know what your writing process has been. I don't know what you've been through. This looks self-published to me, which is an impression. And honestly, if I were designing if I'm assuming you designed this cover, if I'm designing my cover for a piece that I'm going to publish, self-publish, I want it to look as good as anything on a shelf in the store because my name is on it and I take my brand very seriously. So that is food for thought. Can you imagine this cover on a book in Target? That's what you should be asking yourself. Can I see this on a shelf? I mean, whether you're expecting it to go there or not, that's how I would look at it. What would my book look like if you were walking by it in the store? Would you stop and pick it up? Would you read it? Okay, so because it's purple and it's a very attractive, eye-catching color, I would probably reach down and pick it up. I'm not against this rice bowl looking guy right here with something on the top here. I'm kind of worried about. Maybe could be tuna. Apparently, if there's cannibalism here, it could be something else. But I am not sure what the symbol is that's overlaid on top of it. I'm wondering about that. I'm scribed by Alexandria. So your pen name can be whatever you want it to be. Lots of people use a pseudonym instead of their real personal name. I don't know that I've ever seen it saying scribed by. And then your font is fine. I mean, it's fine. I don't know how many people you ran your cover, how many versions of your cover you had, and how many people you ran it by. But those are my initial thoughts on the cover. And so we're going to get in here, where to find my stuff, Tumblr. Okay. I don't know. You know what? I don't know who your age group, who your audience is. Like, who is the person, who is your target audience that you want picking up this novel and reading it and enjoying it? So if it is a younger person, I mean, I don't know. If this has a trigger warning, I'm guessing at the most you're thinking young adult. And why I'm saying young adult is because you've got the word stuff. So stuff is general. If I was writing for a broader audience, I'd probably think about rewording this to what is your stuff? Is it more of your writing? Do you have artwork? Do you have more writing? Do you have a blog? Do you have, what is it? And I guess we could click on here and check them out, but what I'm trying to give you is, this is my first impression as I'm experiencing first your cover and now the first page. So I'm noting the word stuff here, and I'm wondering, what does that mean? So I'm going to make a little suggestion. Be specific. What is stuff? You could say where to find my blog, or you could say, it depends on what stuff is. Okay, if stuff is more of your published writing, you can say more by Alexandria and then have your links. If stuff is your blog, read more, you can reword this to include find my blog. Check out Alexandria's blog here, and then have your links. But be specific about what your stuff is. Now, if your stuff is a link to both your writing, like your published writing, and your blog, okay, then find Alexandria on social media. And see, any of those things are more specific than stuff. It just depends on who your market audience is. But generally speaking, anybody else that looks at this is going to tell you to be more specific. If you have I've had a lot of beta readers of different ages with different levels of experience. I've had a published author review my manuscript professionally, which I paid her to do, and it was worth it. She knew how to sell a book, and she had done it. So I've also had beta readers that I've met on Critique Circle. I've had beta readers that I've met through Facebook, like writing groups, and Reddit is kind of actually pretty new to me. It's just, I've heard there's a lot of writers over there, and I thought it'd be a good place to join a group. I have a really hard time navigating it because I don't understand the rules of it. It's like a world that I don't fit in. But and then I've been on Tumblr a lot, but that's because I also work in fan fiction. So just think about who your audience is, and I would highly recommend rewording this right here to be very specific about what your stuff is, and think that you are writing professionally, you're portraying yourself, you're presenting yourself, and you're marketing yourself. So in every way that you can, we want to be very professional. And yet we want to have a tone that's appropriate for our audience, which is why I'm telling you I'm not sure who your target audience is. And this makes me think someone a little bit younger. Okay. Hope you enjoy this text. Ethical Dining is a part of the God's Skull series of projects. More incarnations of Mary and BAKTI can be found there. And then special thanks to all who have helped me put this series together, including but not limited to my girlfriend, my mom, and my beta readers. Okay. Let me think about this a second. You can say whatever you want in your thanks. It's yours. So I'm really just gonna kind of leave it there. Although I am gonna say the God's Skull series makes me think that's just the name of the title of your series of projects. More incarnations of Mary. Incarnations of Mary. I'm wondering if that's maybe our character here in Ethical Dining, maybe. And I don't know what BAKTI is. Forgive me if I should, and I do not. But I'm not sure if anybody who came and picked this up is also going to know what BAKTI is. I'm not sure. It's yours. I mean, you can put whatever you want in here. Does it make sense to me? It seems like it's more to you and to these specific people, which is fine. So I'm going to move on. Copyright 2024, scribed by Alexandria. I'm just wondering about the scribed thing. Is it just a preference? I'm getting old, y'all. So, I mean, maybe that's a thing. All rights reserved. Okay, so we got our little stuff there. Part 0, Ethical Dining. I don't know if I've ever seen a part 0. Is that like another way of saying prologue? Is it? I'm not sure. Is it? I have never seen a part 0. Oh my goodness. Am I behind the times in style, or is something, I don't know. Okay. Okay. I don't know what to say here. So, part 0. I know what I want to say. Is this like a prologue? Okay, so here's the thing. So a prologue kind of throws us into the action of the story, and it might even seem a little bit out of context, but you get the gist of what's going on, all right? Or the pivotal moment, or a pivotal moment that has triggered what will come in chapter 1, all right? Maybe like the events that led up to it's like a summary or a caption, or you've captured a moment. So that would be a prologue. And then I know what to expect from our first chapter. We are setting up a story. We're introducing our characters. We're gearing up. And we're getting from the lay of the land, okay? I am not sure what to expect from part 0 because I guess to treat it like a chapter 1. But I also treated a prologue I read the other day. I treated it like a chapter 1 too, and I really, I was so involved in it, I forgot that I was reading a prologue. And I'm like, oh wait, the rules are just slightly different here. Okay. So it kind of does matter, and I'm a little uncertain from a reader standpoint, okay? From a beta reading standpoint, not like I picked up the novel and I'm reading it standpoint. If I picked up the novel and it says part 0, Ethical Dining, all right, part 0, Ethical Dining, I'm going to start reading, okay? I'm going to start reading. But from a beta reading standpoint, when I'm trying to give you advice or make suggestions or recommendations or muse what information I have, and then I'm a little more in limbo with part 0 because I'm not sure if it's a prologue or a chapter 1. and the expectations vary a little bit. We're going to treat it like a chapter 1, and we're just going to go for it. Okay, so I'm wondering, do you have a header on every page? No. Okay, we're good. All right, I was just wondering. And your little ellipses there. All right, so I'm wondering if the ellipses are meant to be like a break, but I mean, obviously we haven't started yet. So I'm thinking usually when I put my breaks, I center them. So this could also be like, I guess we're drifting into our story. I'm kind of musing the position of the ellipsis, whether it's part of the text or if it was supposed to be like part of a style and a page break, even though we're starting. So I'm guessing it's going to be part of the text and we're drifting in here. I'd probably just omit it so that there's no confusion on the behalf of your reader. All right. The room is lit with candlelight as MAR-I, Mary and 3 BAKTI sit in front of their dinner. Okay, so looks like Bhakti. I'm kind of scrolling back here. So this is Bhakti. Okay. The more incarnations of Mary. Oh, what is that? And Bhakti can be found there. Okay. The room is lit with candlelight as Mary and Bhakti sit in front of their dinner. Mary says a few silent words underneath her breath, eyes closed, while Bhakti stares blankly at her. After her prayer is finished, Mary immediately stabs her fork into the bowl of herby rice. Okay. I'm going to suggest we omit adverbs. After her prayer is finished, Mary stabs her fork into the bowl of herb rice and retrieves a strip of cooked meat. She raises it and takes a bite, her eyes glancing upward to reveal Bhakti watching her eat. Okay, so let's see. She raises it and takes a bite, her eyes glancing upward. Okay, so you can omit her eyes and just say she glances upward. Yeah, she raises it and takes a bite, glancing upward to reveal Bhakti watching her eat. All right, let's see. Okay, so a couple thoughts. We have her, okay, we have him already, he's watching her, okay? And then we're just restating down here that he's still watching her. We know that he's watching her eat, so that's redundant, so we don't need that. Let me think about that. I guess you could say here still watching, or I mean, it just seems redundant that we have it that he's staring at her and then he's still watching. So I'm kind of musing that. The room is lit with candlelight as Mary and Bhakti sit in front of their dinner. Mary says a few silent words under her breath, eyes closed, while Bhakti stares at her. There we go. After her prayer is finished, Mary stabs her fork into the bowl of herb rice and retrieves a strip of cooked meat. She raises it and takes a bite. I would honestly omit all of this and just end it there. She's taking a bite. Unless him watching her is super important, but I mean, we already know he's staring at her. We already know he's watching her eat. So I don't feel like you need to say it again. Okay. I cannot comprehend how you eat that, says Bhakti, who is slowly moving her hand to grab her own fork and sink it into a slice of meat on top of her rice. Okay, we want to omit our adverbs. I cannot comprehend how you eat that, says Bhakti, who is moving her hand to grab her own fork and sink it into a slice of meat on top of her rice. All right, so this is reading a little bit like, it's very telling, and it's reading like a play-by-play. You've got every moment. And I almost think if we made it active, it would be it would draw your reader in closer. Let's see. Let me muse that sentence for a second. Okay. I'm going to read it the way you have it, and then I'm going to read it kind of making it more active. And let's see if it makes sense, if you see what I'm doing. I cannot comprehend how you eat that, says Bhakti, who is slowly moving her hand to grab her own fork and sink it into a slice of meat on top of her rice. Okay? And then I have slightly reworded it to make a suggestion of kind of making it more active. I cannot comprehend how you eat that, says Bhakti, as she grabs her fork, sinking it into a slice of meat atop her rice. So there's some words in here that you kind of don't actually need. We don't need to say that she's moving her hand. If she's reaching, we know she's using her hand. So, let's see. As she grabs her, and we don't have to say own, grabs her fork, it's hers. And let's see, to make it more active, we take out the and, sinking it into a slice of meat on top of her rice. Okay, you can leave it, meat on top of her rice. You could go with, I think atop might work as well, to kind of, there you go, slice of meat atop her rice, and then you can omit of. So now this sentence is a little bit tighter and it's more active. It's less distancing. So we're taking out excess words that distance our reader from our story because we want to pull them in. Mary chews up her bite. Mary chews, then replies. Then replies. It feels respectful in a way, as if I share their pleasure and their suffering. Okay. So, this is very creepy. It's very creepy. I want to say that because of what you're describing here and what you've told me and what our trigger warning implies that this is, I'm going to compliment something that you've done here. And I don't know if you've done it intentionally, but I made sure I noted it and that I kept it in because it lends itself to the tone of your story. See how you're only in 3 paragraphs. And if you hadn't told me about my trigger warning here and what this very likely is that they are eating, I still would be getting kind of the same feels because of some of your word choices. I'm going to point them out to you. Stabs and grabs. Okay, as she grabs her own fork, sinking it into a slice of meat atop her rice. Okay, so those words have an undertone of aggressiveness to them. So they have like a sensation, a little bit gruff, a little bit aggressive. So there's a feeling that you're building with that. And then you have the creepiness factor with, it's a candlelight dinner. Okay, we've got rice and meat, and we have stabbed it, and we have grabbed it. Okay, so you're setting a tone. And so that's a compliment. That's an observation and a compliment. Okay? Mary chews, then replies, it feels respectful in a way, as if I share their pleasure and their suffering. Bhakti gives no response. Let's see, he stays quiet. If he gives no response, then he is quiet. Okay? You could say he remains quiet or remaining quiet. Look, Bhakti gives no response. Here's the thing. I'm using some of the word choices and the not from your part, but on what I'm suggesting. And the reason why I'm using the words that I'm suggesting is because I want to stay true to the tone of your story. And so word choice, as we have just discussed, is super important in representing your voice and the tone and sensation and feel that you are creating. So Bhakti gives no response, could be appropriate. I have to keep in mind, I don't know how these characters speak, so I'm totally right. I'm on the ride with you. I'm not debating that, how they talk. I'm not even fighting it because I'm on this ride and I'm getting a lay of the land. So I'm getting a first impression, and I'm observing very precise, words here, like a very certain way of speaking cannot Okay, I'm going to point out what I'm talking about. I cannot comprehend how you eat that. So, from the way that Bhakti is speaking, I'm getting, we did not use a conjunction, and they are taking their time here, okay? This is a little bit of an undertone of aggressiveness, and they're taking their time with this meal. They have a candlelight. Bhakti is observing her, and she is musing like, how can you eat that? But she doesn't say, I don't know how you can eat that. So this is a specific way that she has combined her words in a way that she speaks. And I'm just observing. This is nothing to change. I'm getting the tone, but it's also, I'm trying to make sure I'm getting it correct, because if I'm getting it correct, then that lends to the word choices down here. Bhakti gives no reply Bhakti gives no response, remaining quiet until she finishes her food. So, I'm making word suggestions to omit distancing words and keep your reader close. I know it's hard to explain what that means. That's why there's a benefit to a video beta read. So, because literally the story presents us with examples to learn from. I'm a little bit, do I want to suggest, I'm indecisive here, and I'm trying to vocalize why I'm indecisive. I don't want to change your voice or the tone of your story. And so I'm suggesting you make some sentences active by omitting excess words and distancing words, which I think is overall good for the story, no matter the tone. Okay? So I think that's a pretty safe bet. I'm trying to amuse myself whether or not I want to continue to change your sentences to make them active. And I think it's still going to be for the best of your overall story. So I'm going to go ahead and do it. Bhakti gives no response. Remaining. We're going to go with remaining quiet, and I'm going to leave, if I could type correctly, and get that A in there. Remaining quiet until she finishes her food. You could even say, yeah, I kind of want, Bhakti gives no response, remaining quiet until she finishes. Okay, we don't need to say her food because we know that she's eating her food. We don't know what exactly her food is. We have some suspicions, but all right. Mary takes a few more bites, then compliments Bhakti's cooking. But she is met by silence as her wife reaches for her cup and drinks the water from it. Is it important that it's water? It might be important that it's water because this is dystopian, so it kind of, you drink what you have. So I'm musing. Mary takes a few more bites, then compliments Bhakti's cooking. I almost think this should be two separate sentences. Maybe omitting but and starting with she. She is met with silence. She is met with silence as her wife reaches for her cup. Yeah, I'd kind of omit. I'm inclined to say omit that. Unless the water is if being specific to what she's drinking is relevant to your story, then I'd be more inclined to leave it. Otherwise, we know she's drinking. Okay, she's reaching for her cup. Or you could even say she's reaching for her drink or her water, and she can even take a sip. There's a wording, an arrangement of our words. She is met with silence as her wife reaches for her cup or her drink. You could say her drink. You got lots of options. I'm going to leave it and move on. When she returns the short glass to the table, Mary rises from her seat and picks up a large metal bottle wrapped in leather, opens it, refills Bhakti's water, then sits once more. Okay, so you've got water down here, and I like your use of it in this sentence a little bit better. So I'd keep that one. When she returns the short glass to the table, Okay. When she puts it down, when she puts down her cup, Mary rises from her seat and picks up a large metal bottle wrapped in leather, opens it, refills Bhakti's water, then sits once more. Okay. All right. We're gonna leave that. I'm gonna note that it is a long sentence. You could potentially break it into two if you wanted. And I'm using, is it important the size of the cup? Because okay, here's the thing. When you've got a long sentence, you want to look at it and think, do I have words in here that I do not need? Are there details that are not pertinent to the story? Now, I love beautiful words. I love all the words. I've got sentences in some of my old writing that are paragraphs long. I kid you not. It's one sentence and like 10 commas. I have learned so much. And so now I'm able to go and catch and look for that. And I'm able to process and ask myself a series of questions when I'm evaluating a sentence. One of those is, I don't know that it's relevant that the glass is short. And when she returns the glass to the table, Mary rises from her seat and picks up a large metal bottle wrapped in leather. She opens it, refilling Bhakti's water, then sits once more. So there you've got an opportunity to start to end a sentence and start a new one. And that makes it not sound as long. Let me read it both ways. When she returns the glass to the table, Mary rises from her seat and picks up a large metal bottle wrapped in leather, opens it, refills Bhakti's water, then sits once more. Okay. Or, when she returns the glass to the table, Mary rises from her seat and picks up a large metal bottle wrapped in leather. She opens it, refilling Bhakti's water, then sits once more. So you've heard it both ways, and you can decide which way you like it. And I'm not even going to note that one. We're just going to keep going. Mary finishes her. I'm going to say something. I'm looking at her name, both of their names, and the formatting of them is like super distracting. I'm just going to observe that. It's choice, so I'm not critiquing it. I'm just going to tell you, as a reader, I'm finding their names, not the name itself, but the lowercase, and then the AR, and then the hyphen, and then the I, and then the 3, and then the BAKT, the capital BAK, and then the lowercase TI. It's the formatting of them that I'm finding very distracting. I'm accepting it and telling myself to accept it because this is dystopian, and so kind of we don't know the rules of the lay of the land, okay, or the rules of the world. So I'm accepting it for that reason, but I am finding it distracting, and I don't know if I vocalize that, if my brain will stop alerting me to it. So we're just gonna get that out there, and then I'm gonna try to read this again. Mary finishes her meal first and stays at the table until Bhakti takes her last bite. Then she stands and moves all of the dishes next to a large bucket sitting on a counter. There is some water in the bucket, but when Mary dips a finger into it, she finds that it has gone cold. Okay. Mary finishes her meal and stays at the table until Bhakti takes her last bite. Then she stands and moves all of the dishes next to a large bucket sitting on the counter. Okay, so this paragraph reads fine. But it's still reading for me like a play-by-play. And I'm kind of getting, let's see. I'm trying to decide if it's just the tone. It seems like it's the tone of the story, perhaps. Is every move that the character makes relevant to the story? Mary finishes her meal and stays at the table until Bhakti takes her last bite. So that there's an implication of culture there. I'm evaluating this to see if I have any suggestions. I'm not saying that I need one, but I'm going to muse out the value of every sentence, okay? Mary finishes her meal first and stays at the table until Bhakti takes her last bite. So that implies culture and tone. As I'm entering a dystopian world and I'm kind of getting the lay of the land, there's some formality in the way that Bhakti speaks, and there is some It's almost ceremonial. Like they've lit a candlelight dinner, they've sat together, they're eating. Of course, there may not be any power since they're at candlelight and it's dystopian, but I don't know that yet. Um, I'm literally deriving some pre assumptions from the dystopian preface and the cannibalism. So I'm coming in with two assumptions already, and this is part of why I don't ask for many details when I come into reading a story, so that I don't come in with assumptions. I'm also, but any reader, I think, if they picked up the book and they were reading the back of it, depending on what's on the back, I don't know. I don't know. I guess if you had it in your tags, if people were searching for something specific, I'm trying to figure that out. Okay. Mary finishes her meal first and stays at the table until Bhakti takes her last bite. Then she stands and moves all of the dishes next to a large bucket sitting on a counter. Okay, so this paragraph is fine because, and it read well. There is some water in the bucket, but when Mary dips a finger into it, she finds that it has gone cold. Okay, so I'm getting out of this that they don't have running water because she's had to heat the water to do the dishes, and it has gone cold in the time, I guess, that they ate their meal, which is unfortunate. I'm kind of sad for them. All right, Bhakti stands and moves into the living room, sitting in a half lotus position on one of two cushions sitting on the ground. Okay, so we have an echo on sitting. And so what I would do here is, let's see, on the floor, let's see. Bhakti stands and moves into the living room, sitting in a half lotus position on one of two cushions on the floor. Okay, but you have a very formal tone to your story. So you could say on the ground. Are they outside? I'm guessing they're inside of a room. So is the floor carpet? Is it stone? Is it tile? Is it wood? Is it dirt? Is it literally the ground? I'm just wondering, because your word selection here can lend to your scene and building an image in your reader's mind. When I see ground, I'm thinking grass, okay, or dirt, which you could say those things. So just curious, this is an opportunity to add a detail. What is the surface? Is it carpet? Is it grass, wood, tile, etc.? The reason I'm asking that is because it's an opportunity in your world building, in your scene setting, to enter a detail. And so I want you to take advantage of that without, it's not being super elaborate. You're just slipping in a word that is bringing your reader into the know. And if this ground turns out to be earth, okay, when I see ground and if it turns out to be earth, then you've done a great job. Okay, that's good. And this isn't a critique of the choice of ground. I'm seeing an opportunity for you to slip in a detail, and so I'm just pointing it out. To deal with the word echo on sitting, what are we going to do? Bhakti stands and moves into the living room, sitting in a half lotus position on one of two cushions sitting on the ground. She looks through into the kitchen at Mary, stares for a few seconds, then looks straight ahead at a tapestry on the wall and softens her gaze. So she's going to meditate. Okay. I'm going to point out we have staring and watching a lot here. Okay, so I still have not addressed the sitting part. So what I'm going to do is we're going to highlight the echo for you, and you can either rework the sentence omitting one of the two sittings. I usually recommend keeping the first one and omitting the second one. Bhakti stands and moves into the living room, sitting in a half lotus position on one of two cushions on the ground. Simply just take it out. You can just take it out. And then it takes care of your echo. She looks through. I'm a little through into. So the pairing of the words through into, and that gives me like an image of Bhakti sitting on the floor, looking into the kitchen. If she's looking through, is she looking through something? What is she looking through? I'm just a little bit thrown by that. I think I'd omit that. She looks toward the kitchen or into the kitchen. She looks toward the kitchen or into the kitchen at Mary, stares for a few seconds, then looks straight ahead at a tapestry on the wall and softens her gaze. Okay. I'm trying to, okay, we've got, I'm going to do all word echoes in yellow, just for convenience, and you can quickly see that they're echoes. And again, usually I recommend keeping the first one and kind of reworking the second one, or taking a look at how you are wording your sentence if you have repetition. Let's see, there is, I feel like, oh, ground. I wanted to look at, okay, no, not that. There was something else I wanted to look at and I've lost it. Okay, it was stairs. So I found it here and it's up there and I just highlighted it so you can see. Let's see, we're going to keep going. Mary extends both of her hands out toward the bucket and points into it with her middle and ring fingers extended. As she takes a large breath inward, her body contorts slightly and she lets out a shaky moan while her eyes roll back. The elvinoid rocks her hips side to side and rotates her hands so that her palms face downward, fingers still extended in the same gesture, and the water level in the bucket begins to rise. With the end of her inhalation, Mary slips out of her trance state and relaxes her hands down to her sides. The bucket is now filled 3/4 of the way. So she's conjured water and elvinoid. So is she like an elf robot? I'm just kind of musing what an elvinoid is. And when I see the name the way it is, it kind of makes me think AI kind of thing. Mary grabs a rag and begins to scrub the dishes in the bucket. The water is hot, not scalding, but definitely more warm than it was. She places, okay, so she manifested water and she heated it. Okay. The water is hot, not scalding, but definitely more warm. More warm? Okay, so that's an opportunity to say warmer than it was. She places the clean dishes on a ragged towel, spread out on the other side of the bucket, and when she's finished, she grins at her work and spins to face the living room. The woman steps over to the empty cushion next to the other elvinoid and joins her in meditation. Mary stares forward and closes her eyes, but it doesn't take her long to open them and look at her partner. She asks, "Do you still enter the haze?" Bhakti keeps her gaze soft on the tapestry and corrects, "The mist." Mary replies, okay. Right, because there's a difference. Okay, so we've got two characters sitting on the floor. You don't have a lot of movement. And so when that happens, it gets tricky to when there's dialogue and you're having a tag. If you don't have, you want to omit the tag and use an action. And so I'm not saying that's a rule. I'm saying if that's what your goal was. Because that's kind of my goal. When I'm writing, I try not to always use a dialogue tag if it's implied who is speaking. It does, but I will typically not leave multiple lines without a tag. I will have an action. I'll try to give them a movement or something that keeps them real. Let's see. Bhakti keeps her gaze soft on the tapestry and corrects, "The mist." See, I like that. Mary replies, "Right, because there's a difference." So here's the thing. I feel like you could do better than having "she asks" and Mary replies. I like Bhakti's action here. Mary steps forward and closes her eyes, but it doesn't take her long to open them and look at her partner. "Do you still enter the haze?" she asks, "Do you still enter the haze?" I'm trying to decide. I think you could omit the tag, honestly, and it would make it better. Yeah, let's try that. And then we'll try to leave Mary replies. It just seems very telling when it's back and forth. It seems flat. That's what I'm going to go with, flat. Like, she asks, he says, she said, she did, she nodded, she, she yelled, she whispered. If it's back and forth too close together, it doesn't work as well. And a dialogue tag exists for a reason. And so don't be afraid to use them. But when we do, we want to mix them up with an action and something that lets us know who's talking without us having to have the dialogue tag. And you've done that here. So let's just try omitting it and see how this little section reads without it. Mary stares forward and closes her eyes, but it doesn't take her long to open them and look at her partner. Do you still enter the haze? Bhakti keeps her gaze soft on the tapestry and corrects. The mist. Mary replies, right, because there's a difference. Bhakti is slightly irritated by the comment, but gives no response. Okay, here's a thought. I have, up to this point, thought we were in Mary's point of view. I'm kind of going back and kind of musing that. The room is lit with candlelight as Mary and Bhakti sit in front of their dinner. Mary says a few silent words under her breath, eyes closed, while Bhakti stares at her. Because Mary was the lead character here, the first one mentioned, I immediately, as a reader, grabbed and got into Mary's point of view. That's the very first thing. So I have latched onto Mary, and in my thought process, we are in her point of view. And maybe this is what's missing here, because when I tell you that it's reading like a play-by-play, I don't want you to be frustrated or be upset. So when I'm telling you that, I have to figure out why that is. And so as I get down here, something has happened, which I've lost my spot. Okay. Something has happened that has prompted me to go back to the top and question whose point of view am I in? Okay. And I believed it was Mary's. And at this point, I'm also realizing something else that might be why it's reading like a play-by-play. Yes, we want to look for active words. We want to look for speaking with an active voice to kind of draw our reader in and omit distancing words when possible. But I'm also trying to respect that there is a tone to this world, okay? And it seems like a very ritualistic kind of thing. And I don't mean that in like a religious way. I mean like a habitual routine, very specific and ritualistic in the way that it's done. I have the sensation at this point that these characters probably do this process every day. Okay, so that's my sensation. And if that was your goal as an author, then you've hit your goal. But I'm going to tell you, I assumed we were in Mary's point of view, yet I have not had a single internal thought from any character yet. There's no internal thought as to what Mary thinks about anything. And I think the reason it's reading like a play-by-play is because it feels like a narration. Like, even in third person limited, you are in one character's point of view. You're with a specific character that you are privileged to hear their thoughts that the other character does not know. So as of right now, I have thought we were in Mary's point of view. I'm going to tell you why I no longer feel that way. So first, my brain observed an adverb we don't need. At the same time, I observed something else. Bhakti is slightly irritated by the comment, but gives no response. If we are in Mary's point of view, how does she know that Bhakti is irritated? Okay. I'm going to guess it's by a facial expression, which to this point, I know that they're elvenoids, but I don't know what they look like. I don't know any of their features. I don't know any of Mary's personal thoughts or opinions or what she's seeing or what she's observing. I just thought we were in her point of view because she was the first named character, and I'm lost here at she is not, apparently, or if she is, we have had a lapse in point of view here. You can slightly rework this sentence and it will be okay. You can give an observation of Mary's that lets her know that Bhakti is irritated. What does an irritated facial expression look like? Well, I'm not sure what an elvenoid looks like, so I can't answer that for you. But if you know what an elvenoid looks like, which I'm guessing you do, then you can describe, and you don't have to go into great detail. You just pick a feature that shows irritation on Bhakti's face. Mary's going to see that, and you can have Bhakti appears irritated, or Mary knows Bhakti is irritated by the such and such, by the twist of her mouth, or the frown, or a hardness at flickering in her eyes. See, there's a number of different things, features to a person's face in their mannerisms and their body language that show us their irritation. You can be irritated and go look in the mirror and look at your face as you're irritated, and what do you see? What do you see? Do you see a hardness? What is the set of your mouth? Are your lips pursed? Are the corners of your mouth downturned? Is the line of your jaw hard? Does your face, the lines of your face look drawn? Like they just, you can see it. So this is an observation. If we say Bhakti is irritated, that makes me think we're in Bhakti's point of view. But I had thought we were with Mary, so I need clarity on point of view. Let's see. Musings, notes and video. We're just going to go with notes and video. Okay, so I have voiced what the concern is there, and then just saying that it's... There we go. My explanation is in the video, so that's what we're going to go with. So now you know why I've got point of view concern. Okay, right with that line. Easily fixed with this one line as well. Okay, so if we're still with Mary, and this is just a thing, it's an oversight, it can easily be, the sentence can easily be reworked to still say the same message, but showing what Mary sees Bhakti do, or the line or the expression of, something that Mary saw shows Mary that Bhakti is irritated. Otherwise, this reads as though it's in Bhakti's point of view, and we have flip-flopped from Mary's to Bhakti's. Also, I'm noting that we have had no internal thoughts from Mary, so I'm making an assumption that we're in her point of view. I'm not entirely sure because we've had no internal thoughts from her up to this point. So those are some things to muse over. Let's see. The room is silent for 2 seconds before Mary begins to ramble. I've been trying to get back into the haze for a few weeks now, but I feel like that's falling flat. The basic things come, like the increased awareness of space, some visions when my eyes are closed if I'm blessed, but there's been nothing as strong as what I was getting when we moved here at the beginning of the year. Absolutely nothing as close as the revelation. But the Soma really encouraged that. Mary goes silent for a few moments, then asks, "What do you think about us hunting a nit? His technomag would be an issue, but I could take them first before they sent word to the church gov. This would bring us some food, ammo, psychoactives." Bhakti sighs and whispers, "You do not need chems, Mary." Okay, so this is interesting. Mary has been spelled this way the entire time, and here it is spelled differently. So I'm wondering about that. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. No, I don't want to omit that. I'm wondering. I just want to highlight and put a note on it. There we go. Curious. It could just be a reader musing, or it could be, I don't know. I'm alerted here. Curious to the spelling variation. And the reason I'm kind of not saying it's a mistake is because it's in dialogue as Bhakti specifically addressed Mary. So I'm not really sure if that is it could be a thing. I mean, because it's in the dialogue, so there could be a reason behind it. That's what I'm going with. Okay. Unless it's just an oversight, unless you used the spelling of Mary and then did a search and changed it to this formatting. I'm not really sure. Okay, I'm going to go back for a second. The room is silent for 2 seconds before Mary begins to ramble. I've been trying to get back into the haze for a few weeks now, but I feel like that's falling flat. The basic things come, like the increased awareness of space, some visions when my eyes are closed if I'm blessed. But there's been, yeah, this is fine. Okay. And so I'm getting new things that I'm starting to wonder what they mean. So as I read this, I'm wondering, what was the revelation? Who or what is the soma? And there was another group, that hunting a knit. His technomag would be an issue. So that sounds like it's one person, but I could take them first before they sent word to the church gov. Okay, so a knit sounds like one of a person, and then his technomag would be an issue, but I could take them first before they sent to the church gov. So I'm guessing the knit has no gender as it's a them. Okay, what do you think about us hunting a knit? His technomag would be an issue, but I could take them first. Take them or it. I don't know what a technomag is, okay? So this is not related to the knit itself. It's related to the technomag. His technomag would be an issue, but I could take it first before they send word to the church gov. Take them first. Okay, so maybe it's a technology device or it's a weapon, because I'm reader musing, guys. I'm reader musing. It's either a weapon or a technology, or like a technology device, like a device that you would like communicate with, because it says before they send word to the church gov. So if they take the technomag first, then they can't send word. So I'm guessing it's either communication, maybe. This would bring us some food, ammo, and psychoactives. Bhakti sighs and whispers, "You do not need chems, Mary." Mary side-eyes Bhakti, who is still sitting upright and staring forward, and says, okay, so we have two ands, which I try to avoid. Mary side-eyes Bhakti, who is still sitting upright, staring forward, and says, all right, Mary's going to say this, not Bhakti. All right. I don't need them. They'd help, though. Besides, you like Sid, you never know. I don't know what Sid is. Okay, so I'm wondering a couple things. Sid is added to my list. Okay. Mary side-eyes Bhakti, who is still sitting upright and staring forward. You know what I would suggest here is going like this. I don't need them. She says. There you go. Oh my goodness. They'd help though. Besides, you likes. I'm stumbling over the like Sid because I'm like, I don't know what that is. Okay. Mary side-eyes Bhakti, who is still sitting upright and staring forward. I don't need them, she says. They'd help though. Besides, you like Sid, you never know. I don't know what a Sid is. Okay, we're going to keep reading. We're going to find all the answers to all these things. Bhakti shakes her head and looks left to Mary. Mary gives her a large smile. Knits do not carry Sid, Mary retorts. I did. Bhakti expands on her thought, saying, it is a liability. The crusade was a different time, a lost cause for the church gov. Too many new ideas coming back to Oasis. If they are carrying chems, it is still STMS and STMs and holes. You do not need them. The room goes silent. Okay, let's see here. Is it, I would omit the detail. Sometimes we don't want a detail, okay? How to decide whether or not you keep a detail. One of the questions you might ask is it redundant? So Mary shakes her head and looks to Mary. It doesn't matter to me if she's on her left or her right. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. She looks at Mary. I mean, that's Bhakti shakes her head and looks at Mary. Mary gives her a large smile. Knits do not carry Sid. Mary retorts, I did. Bhakti expands on her thought, saying, it is a liability. I think we don't need to say saying because she's going to talk. And she's expanding on her thoughts. Bhakti expands her thoughts. On her thoughts, expands her thoughts. Expands on her thoughts. We're going to stay with on. Bhakti expands on her thoughts. It is a liability. The crusade was a different time, a lost cause for the church gov. Too many new ideas coming back to Oasis. If they are carrying chems, it's stems and holes. You do not need them. The room goes silent. Mary breaks the silence. Oh. So we've got an echo and silent. Can you tell me, is there tension in the room between the two of them? You could say breaks the tension. And if you do, that takes care of your word echo. But I don't know if it's tense, so don't use that if it's not. Breaks the tension. Mary's the first to break the tension, or Mary breaks the tension. The room goes silent. Mary breaks the tension. How long does she wait to break the tension? And I'm assuming there's tension, because if the room is silent, it's fallen silence. I feel like it's done that a couple times back there. Like there's not a whole lot of free thought. It seems like which is fine. The room goes silent. Mary breaks the tension with, I don't need them. Maybe not the stems. She doesn't continue her thought further before Bhakti stands. Let's see. We don't need to read that word. Okay, the room goes silent. Mary is the first to break the tension. I'm musing over this little branch right here. So it's silent. Mary's going to speak first. Does Mary have an internal thought? Does she have a feeling? Is there something she wants? What are her thoughts about this conversation that she's having? Does she know where she stands with Bhakti? Is this a conversation they've had before? I'm kind of getting the sensation that this might be something that has a history to it between them that they've already dealt with, or that they deal with, that Bhakti's recommending that she doesn't need this. Mary, and so what I'm suggesting is, in lieu of having this, give Mary an internal thought, and then have her speak. And you can separate that like a new paragraph here. So the room falls silent. Okay. And then Mary's going to break it after her internal thoughts. Okay. So in lieu of this sentence or this part, in lieu of this, I suggest inserting some of Mary's, let's see, how do we spell her name? Mary's internal thoughts, feelings. Thoughts and feelings, thoughts or feelings, thoughts and or feelings related to the dialogue, to what they're talking about. And let's see. I think that's going to do it for you. I don't think you're going to need a dialogue tag if you do this. I don't know what Mary thinks or feels. I don't know about, like I mused before, I don't know if they've had prior conversations, if they've had prior experiences, if Mary, it reflects on what she wants versus why Bhakti doesn't want it. Just something, it doesn't have to be very long, but something that gives us an internal thought from Mary. It might even give us a little insight into the history of it. It doesn't have to be long. But if this is an opportunity right here, this is a good spot for you to insert some of that in, because there's a tension and then Mary breaks it. So before she breaks it, you don't have to say that she's going to break the tension. She's going to break it, and you're going to have her just speak up after you've heard her, after the reader experiences her internal thoughts and feelings. And then it'll make sense, and it'll do for you what the sentence is doing, but much better, much stronger. Bhakti moves behind Mary and leans over her, resting her right hand on the back of the woman's neck. She whispers, "Anything you can get from the holes, you can get from visualization." Bhakti knows the dangers of relying on holes. Disassociation is an easy way to escape the mundane. Okay. Now we're in Bhakti's point of view again. This is a point of view switch. Honestly, it's kind of even like we might have been in Bhakti's point of view. I'm not really sure whose point of view we were in. I assumed it was Mary's, and I told the reason being she was the first named character. So now I'm not really sure. Bhakti moves behind Mary and leans over her, resting her hand on the back of the woman's neck. She whispers, "Anything you can get from holes, you can get from visualization." Bhakti knows the dangers of relying on holes. Disassociation is an easy way to escape the mundane. Okay, so that's kind of like what we need, all right? I'm not telling you to omit this sentence by any way, shape, or form. I'm just telling you that it is in Bhakti's point of view. So if this whole entire thing is in Bhakti's point of view, then the last time I mentioned a point of view switch would have not been a point of view switch, and I would need to go back to the first paragraph with a different and look through the whole chapter through a different lens, okay? I had immediately linked up with Mary as your reader, and now I'm wondering if I should have linked up with Bhakti as the point of view. So my suggestion is, in the first paragraph, make it super clear whose point of view you're in. And what I'm going to do is scroll back up and note that for you. Let's see. It's just a general note, so I'm just going to put it like right here. Let's see. Notes in video, but be sure to make it clear which character's point of view the reader is in. Yeah. Point of view. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Notes in video, but be sure to make it clear which character's point of view. Okay. Yes. And you want to do that in the first paragraph, because then your reader is thinking from this person's point of view, and we're gathering information about this person and their relationship with Bhakti as they go on. And I feel like it was Mary, because she also says her wife, and she's talking about Bhakti. So that seems like that'd be Mary's point of view. Yes. Okay. So then with these little lapses in point of view switch, if you give Mary's internal thoughts, you can achieve the same things that you've got here, which is basically, we need this, but we need it from Mary. Okay? So we're going to keep going. Mary stays silent as Bhakti rubs up and down her neck. She makes a mental note of her plan in case they decide to revisit it. Okay, so this is reading Mary's point of view. Bhakti considers the thought of raiding a chem shop if they find themselves in a settlement controlled by the church gov. Okay, so now this is Bhakti's point of view. Okay. This line reads Mary's point of view. This line reads Bhakti's. Okay, so if we are in Mary's, then Bhakti can say something suggesting that, okay, this sentence says, Bhakti considers the thought of raiding a chem shop if they find themselves in a settlement controlled by the church gov. Bhakti could just say that out loud, and that would keep us in Mary's point of view, if that makes sense. So I'm trying to think of like a way to adjust it if you have this point of view switch. I talk a lot about point of view switches in some of my other videos, so you may have heard me talk about them before, but I don't want you to feel like you have to do a major rewrite, because if it's a thought, you can easily make it dialogue. All right. So if you've accidentally slipped into the other character's point of view, then you can grab it back if it's a thought that you can make. Like I said, you can make a dialogue. So that should work. Bhakti removes her hand and turns around, saying, I'm going to bed. Feel free to join me when you're done, as she begins walking toward their bedroom. Okay. So when I say it reads like a play-by-play, some of the ways that is so is from you telling me what is happening. And when you're very specific in how the character is moving, sitting, grabbing, or like picking up, reaching. Okay, so they've stood up, they sat down, they used their right hand, they used their left hand. Those are very specific, but they're telling, they're not showing. I have no visuals. I still don't know what either character looks like. Bhakti removes her hand and turns around. So the sentence is, it's also, overall, it's not reading active, okay? And your sentences can be slightly reworded to be active, like I kind of showed you above. And that will make it, well, it'll draw you in a little more. But I'm not exactly saying to change all of them to active, because I'm still undecided as, if this is the tone of like the world that they're in. Like if the way that you've worded things lends itself to the setting, then I would be less inclined to change it and keep the very specific formal, more formal. When you deal with fantasy, the rules are up in the air for you to decide. And as long as the way that you choose your words and organize your words lends to the story and the tone of the story and the world that they're in, then it's okay. And so that's why I'm not going through each line and saying you can make this active and make it closer. I feel like it would help, but I am not sure about the world. So I don't know the rules of the world that they're in. And because of that, I'm hesitating to change the overall voice and the way things are worded, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. Bhakti removes her hand and turns around, saying, I'm going to bed. If we're with Bhakti and she removes her hand and she turns around, does she have a facial expression? Does she have, something that Mary is seeing? All right, what does Mary see? What does Bhakti look like? Rather than saying that we know we're with her, that we're following her action. So the dialogue grouped with her action tells me that it's her speaking, and I don't need the dialogue tag. Bhakti removes her hand and turns around. I'm going to bed. Feel free to join me when you're done. As she begins walking towards their bedroom. I would probably end it there and say she makes her way she shuffles off toward the bedroom. Okay, something. Begins walking. So I feel like begins is one of those distancing words. I'm going to think about this for a second. Okay, so I paused because I was looking for my book, which is, I think, The Idiot's Guide to Writing, or Writing for Dummies, or something like that. Okay, I know it's funny, but when I first started writing again, like I wrote a lot as a child. I wrote as a teenager. I started writing as an adult again because it's just something that makes me happy. So when I started writing again, my husband, to be supportive, went out and bought me a couple of books on writing for publishing specifically. And so I did my writing, I went through beta processes, and I started writing different styles and different genres and just trying out different things and figuring out what it is that I want to do and how to do it well. And so I started getting beta readers and learning some more techniques and learning what my writing was missing. And when I first started writing, I kind of did what you've been doing up to this point. And that is telling the story. Okay. So I would just tell the story. I literally would do exactly what you're doing here. Okay. Now, to some degree, obviously, we are always telling a story, and we're always telling when we're writing, because literally we're writing it. Okay. We're telling a story, but there is, a way that we use our words that draws our reader in close. And we want them to be really close to us when we're reading, okay? We want them to feel like they're there, like they're immersed in the story. And there's no room for their little mind to wander around anywhere else. And we want to drive them down a road or take them on a ride, and we want them to get the visual we want them to have. And so when I'm reading this, there's a couple things I've been thinking, and I'm like, I wish I had my book, because I feel like it has some like some quick lists of things that I looked for. And so when I would polish my manuscript, so when I would go through all my revision processes and everything, and I'm polishing a manuscript that I'm expecting to try to query, which I've done, and I'm not interested in that rat race. I'm not interested. And it was killing writing for me, so I backed off. Am I capable? Absolutely. Am I going to pursue it? I kind of just don't. If I wrote something really well and everyone enjoyed it, great. And if not, I enjoy it, and that's what matters to me. So, keeping that in mind, when I polished the manuscript that I submitted to my paid beta reader, who wrote me literally like a 3-page report on my story, okay? She identified the strengths. She identified the weaknesses. She made suggestions to the overall storyline to make it marketable. She came at it from a marketability perspective. She did a great job. What she did say to me is, this is clean. Like, technically, it is clean, okay? So I had gone through it, and I had scrubbed my manuscript for certain things. And I'm going to talk about what one of those is right now. Bhakti removes her hand and turns around. I'm going to bed. Feel free to join me when you are done. She begins walking toward their bedroom, okay? I saw the word begins, and I thought, I think this is a distancing word. I felt like I wanted to go get my list so I could kind of have it handy and kind of read over it for you. I could not find my book. So I have searched my bookshelf. I've searched all the places I stash books all over the house. And I've searched a closet. I cannot find it. So it is here somewhere, lost in my abyss. And I guess the good news is I don't usually need it as much for 2 reasons. One, I have used it to... I've learned from it. Okay, I studied it. I practiced what I learned from it. And then I began writing better. And I didn't write better just because of that. That's just how I cleaned up a manuscript that I was getting ready to submit to someone, okay? Because I wanted it very clean. There was no... I had a writing buddy who did punctuation and grammar. So when I got to the point, my general punctuation is good. I have a problem with run-on sentences and commas, okay? Those are my weaknesses. I've gotten a lot better with run-on sentences, but commas I can still mess that up. Okay. I've gotten better, but I can still mess it up. So I started practicing all the things that I absorbed from this book. And I swear it's like one of those for dummies books. Like, the ones that have like the orange border on them. And I want to look at it because I could be telling you wrong, because there's a lot of resources. I used a lot of resources to learn and practice. And when I put things into practice, they become part of my writing process. And I can go back and scrub for them, but it's going to come back much cleaner because I've implemented those techniques and those kind of guidelines to help my writing be better. And now it's just part of me when I write. So that's the good news. It's like muscle memory. So let's look at begins walking, and I'm going to talk about, for a second, active voice, because I've mentioned it a couple times before. Writing in active voice means that the subject of a sentence performs the action of the verb. So we have, who is it here? I think it's Bhakti. Okay, Bhakti walks toward the bedroom. Begins walking is distancing. And to make it active, just have it she walked towards the bedroom. Here's some examples. Active voice. The subject performs the action of the verb. Tom wrote the paper. The committee is considering the petition for vegan meal options. Henry slammed on the brakes at the red light. Passive voice. The subject is acted upon by the verb. Bananas were bought by me at the store today. The ball is being chased by the dog. So active voice is a little bit tighter, and it pulls your reader in close and keeps them there. I had been kind of undecided up to the point because I was trying to leave space for whatever the world that we are reading in, how it works. I don't know the rules of it. But generally speaking, writing in active voice is more powerful and keeps your reader a little bit closer to you. Active voice is, now I did a Google search, and it had what I wanted, and it says what I was thinking, so I'm just going to kind of use it for I'm identifying my source here, okay? Active voice is generally clearer and more concise than passive voice. It also complements the typical word order of English, where the subject appears first, the verb second, and the object last. It says here, while neither active nor passive voice is inherently better than the other, each is suited for certain types of writing. For example, news anchors often speak using passive voice, while authors of opinion pieces usually write in active voice. My suggestion, okay, because that's exactly what I'm trying to say, and my suggestion is to write in active voice. It just works better. It filters out unnecessary words, which the second tool that I use, and I don't need my books as much now because I can go over to Pinterest, and lots of other writers have made these lovely little quick lists, and you can bring up the list and it'll quickly list like you could do a search for filter words on Pinterest, and someone is going to have a list. Why did it just turn purple? It just turned purple, and I don't know why. You can go on click list, like go on Pinterest and type in list of filter words, and it's going to give them to you. And then what that does for you is when you are looking to accomplish a certain goal, I suspect you're in your document right now. When you're looking to accomplish a certain goal, you can search. You can do a quick search in your document for the specific thing that you're trying to look for. Is it adverbs? You can do a search for adverbs, and you'll have like a handy list, and you'll start to learn how to identify them. And then you can do it for filter words, okay, which kind of create distance between you and your writer, the kind of extra words. Filter words, this is another AI search. This came back from Masterclass, and I agree with it. Filter words are extra words that put distance between readers and a character's experience. They are usually explanatory words that remove a reader from the action by describing a character's thought process or action in an explanatory way. I find them just excess that we don't need. It's kind of like trimming the fat, I suppose. So all those things are things to keep in mind. I would do, if I were you, I would do a search for filter, go on Pinterest, do a search for a list of filter words or something, and it's going to probably pop up something nice for you. You could also look into writing in active voice, and you can decide for yourself. So that's the beauty of writing, is ultimately you are in charge of what you do and what you decide to do. So here I'm just going to say, suggest using active voice. She walks toward their room. Okay. Mary nods and faces forward again, closing her eyes. She attempts to slip into meditation, but after a few minutes, she gives up and joins her partner in bed. Okay, did she have some thoughts? She gave up. So what led her to give up? Did she have some thoughts or feelings or something? Let's see. Oh, no, that's not what I want to do. Gosh, I love when I do that. It's just like, no, panic. Okay. This is an opportunity to insert some of Mary's thoughts. Why was she unable to meditate? Was there something on her mind? See, so That'll make us, we want to feel something for one of the two characters, all right? So if I start getting internal thoughts and feelings here and there, not everywhere, but just kind of like here and there in different places, I am going to start to care more about your character and then become invested in them. And that is ultimately what you want your reader to feel. You want them to have some feelings about these characters. And at this point, I don't yet have any feelings for them because I don't feel close to them. I don't know anything personal about them. I feel like an observer of their dinner and evening routine, and that they had some conversation about potentially this catching a knit, which I'm guessing would probably end up as dinner, but you get the idea. So what I'm aiming for is what can we add or revise or like change, and what does it need in order for us to feel something for Mary and feel something for Bhakti. So I'm just kind of like looking for places to insert internal thoughts, and I think if we do that, then when we go back and we reread it, we're going to start to have feelings about this interaction between these two women. Okay. Mary wakes up to an empty bed. The sun, Sol, is casting rays through the gaps in the cloth covers on the windows of the bedroom, and after a few seconds, Mary determines that it rose about an hour prior. Okay. I would end the sentence here, omit the and go with after here. After a few seconds, Mary determines that it rose about an hour prior. The woman slides the covers from her naked figure and stands. Then she moves toward the wooden shelving unit in the corner and retrieves an oversized shirt from a stack. Mary pulls the shirt over her head and onto her body. The long sleeves hang past her hands, and the pale yellow color mimics Sol's light. So she's woken up and she's gotten dressed. I'm trying to figure out. Here's what I think, or what I'm kind of like trying to figure out. She woke up alone. Okay. The sun has come up, and she's kind of giving me an idea that it has come up about an hour prior. So it's pretty early morning. She slides the covers from her naked figure, and then she stands, and then she moves towards the wooden shelving. And so it's robotic. And if she's a robot, that's suitable, but she ate food. So is she like a hybrid or something? I don't know. The woman slides the covers from her naked figure, and standing, she moves toward the wooden shelving unit in the corner. I'm trying to figure out this sentence right here, how to make it less telling, less of a play-by-play. You've got details on there. Mary pulls the shirt over her head. It just seems like I'm getting a play-by-play of the moments of everything, but I guess if you had her internal thoughts, that it would feel more personable, and then I would have feelings for her, like, she woke up to an empty bed, the sun has come up about an hour prior. I'm also kind of wondering, is all this relevant? All right. Is it relevant that she woke up, she's naked, she stands up, and then she moves to the shelving, and then she's grabbing, an oversized shirt, and then she's pulling the shirt on. So literally these whole lines right here are just telling me step by step what she did to get dressed, and I don't know that it's relevant to the story. I don't know if you need it. I think you could probably cut that whole chunk. I don't know for sure, because we're going to keep reading and something might happen that tells me otherwise, but I'm inclined to say you don't need this. I feel like this part up to here is fine, because she's woke up, it's a new day, so that tells your reader it's a new day. And then she's determined the time, and we're learning a little bit about how she did that, and she's kind of figured out the time. You could really just say she got dressed, and then what is she doing next? So I'm going to suggest omitting this. I think you may be able to omit all of this notes in video. Okay? I'm not sure though, because, I may read on here and find something relevant back here that means we need it. But generally speaking, I'm kind of inclined to think we don't need it. Mary yawns as she moves through the bedroom and into the living room. Bhakti is not visible in the house, so Mary heads into the kitchen and immediately begins preparing her morning STMs. She first, by the way, I'm just suggesting you omit adverbs where you don't need them. She first opens a jar and scoops out a blend of pre-ground brown beans and dried green leaves into a small chamber hanging over a glass beaker. And then you've got above the chamber. So we've got an echo on chamber. Ah! My phone scared me. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Okay. I'm just going to omit chamber. Got a word echo on chamber. Okay. Let's see. I'm inclined to say you should end this sentence here. And then just say above it, and you can just omit this and say above it, above the chamber. There we go. Let's try it again. She first opens a jar and scoops out a blend of pre-ground brown beans and dried green leaves into a small chamber hanging over a glass beaker. Above it sits a container that holds water, and after Mary fills it from a steel bottle next to the device and flips the switch on the side, the water begins to heat. The woman then takes a second to search the other jars nearby and removes two containing white powders, one clumpy and the other in bigger crystals. She carefully scoops half of a spoonful of the bigger crystals into the glass beaker under the device, then, contrasting the precision of her previous motions, tosses 3 unmeasured scoops of the clumpy powder into the beaker. The water, now boiling, begins to drip down into the chamber containing the herbs, and after a few moments it trickles into the beaker underneath, now taking on a deep brown color. Mary is satisfied as the beaker starts to slowly fill. So she turns and removes a red-yellow fruit from a basket nearby, then places it on a cutting board on the other side of the counter. A knife is already sitting next to the cutting board, so Mary grabs it and sinks it into the fruit. As soon as she lifts the knife and slices again, Bhakti appears like a ghost behind her and softly rests her right hand on the back of Mary's neck. So, we have a very specific routine. Here's the thing. All of these actions will work for you if they're all leading up to something. And we have no internal thoughts from Mary. We've just got this literal kind of play-by-play of every movement she makes, okay? I feel like, what is Mary thinking about as she does each thing? What is its relevance to her? If you tie the action to the thought, for example, whatever you're feeling, even if you don't vocalize your feeling, you might have an internal thought about it. Or even if you're trying to process it, you might be subconsciously thinking about it, okay? But it's kind of like let's see, if I'm mad, then I'm slamming things, okay? If I'm musing out what I'm going to do for the day while I'm preparing my breakfast, I'm still having internal thoughts. So what I would do is look at this paragraph, which it's fine. I would look at this paragraph, and as I'm writing it, I would think, what is Mary thinking about as she's doing these things? And then they're going to kind of take on a different feel when you read it, when you've paired it with her internal thoughts. You're going to have to practice it in order to kind of get your feeling after it. I can't do it for you because I don't know Mary well enough. I don't know what she might be thinking about. All I can do is say, let's say that I'm making coffee. I'm thinking about all the things that I have to do today. Okay, I'm emptying the dishwasher. As I'm emptying the dishwasher, I still need to do laundry. I have to feed the cat. I have to feed the rabbit. I've got to take so-and-so, got to get so-and-so off the shuttle. I got to get so-and-so to school. Okay, so you see what I'm saying? So I'm kind of thinking about these things. And then if I'm frustrated about it, my tone might be different. If I don't have any strong feelings about it and I'm just doing it, then I'm just emptying the dishwasher, right? While I'm having these thoughts. But you'll be able to tell that I don't have any opinions about it, no feelings about it. However, if I'm angry, oh my gosh, I am so overwhelmed. I have way too much to do today and not enough time. As I'm putting a glass into the cabinet, okay? I might even get upset and drop a glass and it might break. See what I'm saying? So the actions of the characters tie with their internal thoughts, and that builds your story. So you're missing a thread here, and that is her internal thoughts. Otherwise, I'm just reading this as a play-by-play of everything she did this morning. Let's keep going. All right, so we're cutting fruit, and Bhakti has reappeared. I have already prepared a meal. Be observant of your surroundings, whispers Bhakti as she leans toward Mary and wraps her left arm around her torso. Is it important that it's her left arm? Mary places the knife down on the counter and turns her head to face Bhakti, then replies, "You know that I'm never observant when I wake," as she leans in and meets her lips to Bhakti's. We know it's Bhakti because there's only two of them in the room, so I don't think you need to specify. And the way that they speak is this, so I'm leaning this to the tone. So I was thinking about what they said, and then how it's worded, but I'm going to go with it because I think it fits this kind of feel that you have to the story. The couple linger in a kiss for several moments before Bhakti pulls away and says, "Okay, let's not have her say. Let's just say she pulls away. Excuses only blind you from the truth." Oh, truth is capitalized. It's a thing. Mary peers over toward the dining table in the kitchen and spots a small bowl of chopped fruit. So she pulls from Bhakti's arms and plants herself in the chair in front of it. She saw it and she decided, I'm pondering. Mary peers over toward the dining table in the kitchen, spotting a small bowl of chopped fruit. I would make this active. Spotting a small bowl of chopped fruit. I'd end the sentence here. She pulls from Bhakti's arms and plants herself in the chair in front of it. Bhakti steps forward and picks up the knife to begin to cut up the rest of the fruit. Picks up the knife. Okay, so to begin is distancing. What is that noise? There's like this something out there that is humming. It's just a humming sound. I closed my window, but I can still hear it. I don't know what it is. Let's see. Bhakti steps forward, picks up the knife. Period. There we go. She cuts up the rest of the fruit. Mary started. There we go. So what I'm trying to do is suggested making it active. She pulls from Bhakti's arms, planting herself in the chair in front of it. You can say and plants, or you could say planting and make that active. Bhakti steps forward and picks up the knife. She cuts up the rest of the fruit Mary started. Bhakti continues talking as she chops. All right, so if you're telling me that she's talking, and then you said that she says, then you're telling me. We don't need that dialogue tag. It's implied because we know that Bhakti is talking. But Bhakti continues talking as she chops. It is not just when you wake, you know. You have yet to comment on our dwindling amount of food. Mary says flatly, "I've noticed," and raises a piece of fruit into her mouth. Here's the thing. In lieu of saying says flatly, you can, well, I want to make sure we stay in Mary's point of view. Can you show that she's saying it flatly through an action? I like how she raises the piece of fruit into her mouth. And I think if you let this action right here stand first, and then she says, I've noticed, it's going to do the same thing that you saying says flatly does. Let me show you what I mean. Let me just rework it really quick on a line so you can see it, and then you can decide which way you like it. Okay, so I've made a suggestion line, but I want to add something else here. I'm going to read it both ways, and then I'm going to tell you that the second line that I have suggested can be even better if you add Mary's internal thoughts, or if Mary looks around the room and perhaps sees that they don't have much food, maybe, or she could either internalize the thought of the empty cupboard, or like a single can of beans in her cupboard or something like that. Or she could look around and maybe there's not much in that bowl, maybe that is the last piece of fruit, and so you can show it, and then you can have her be like, I've noticed. So if you show it and through her eyes and through her internal thought of reflection briefly, then you can just go, I've noticed. And it's going to have a tone to it, and it's going to have an empty feeling around it, because, you're going to start to have feelings. If you show your space, or you use your space paired with your action or your thought, and you pair the two together, it creates a feeling. And you really want your reader to feel something like concern. Hey, there's some urgency here. We're about out of food. We got to do something. All right, so let me read the lines both ways. And I'm going to go up a little bit one line so you can kind of get a feel, get like you're back into the story. You have yet to comment on our dwindling amount of food. Mary raises a piece of fruit to her lips. I've noticed. Bhakti turns toward Mary and strikes down on the fruit. So what are we going to do? What are we to do? Would you have us starve? Okay. Or, you have yet to comment on our dwindling amount of food. Mary says flatly, I've noticed, and raises a piece of fruit into her mouth. Bhakti turns toward Mary and strikes down on the fruit. So what are we to do? Would you have us starve? So I'm reading it the way you've got it for the way they speak. All right, so I think you might be doing something that I do, and I have to stop myself, is where I start to overthink each movement very specifically, and we don't actually need to do that. Bhakti turns toward Mary, striking down the fruit. I kind of thought they were already kind of generally facing each other, and so you could probably omit the turns toward Mary and just give Bhakti her action. And strikes down on the fruit. So was she swiping it away from her face? I mean, you could have her do that. She could have knocked the fruit right out of her hands. Go ahead and have her do that. And then it'll be, because we're having we're kind of amplifying our situation right now. Knock the fruit away. There we go. Suggest having Bhakti knock the fruit away. For example, Bhakti smacks the fruit out of her hands. So what are we to do? Would you have us starve? So see the action that you give, like her striking down the fruit. You can even just go with that. Look, Bhakti strikes down on the fruit. So what are we to do? Would you have us starve? So see, I really think you can omit this part right here. There we go. Mary stands and turns to give Bhakti her full attention. So we have a play-by-play of her every movement. We're getting play-by-plays of every movement, and not if they're. We don't need to do that if it's not necessary. they're already kind of facing each other. We have them turning and turning, and we don't need to do that. Mary stands. And yeah, we don't want to say she begins to say that's distancing. Does maybe when she stands up, does she knock back her chair perhaps? Mary stands, knocking back her chair. You know I wouldn't let that happen. I said we should have a bigger garden. This. See? You can either go with Mary stands, or you could do, something like that and give her an action or a ripple effect or something that like she stands up and the chair falls back. See? So you could do anything that shows her feelings here. And you can also, you can literally, when you're in that character's point of view, you can literally tell their thoughts. So you can have her internal thoughts. Bhakti interrupts Mary. We know it's only the two of them in the room, so we don't need to say that. Bhakti interrupts. And because she's interrupting, you and I, let's go back a second. Mary stands. You know I wouldn't let that happen. I said we should have a bigger garden. This. You and I both know we do not have time for that, Bhakti interrupts. We could be forced to move at any time. So you could literally move this little dialogue tag you have in between the kind of this spot right here, and that might flow nicely. Let's see. Or you can put it at the end, or you can leave it where it is. You have options. What I would do is read it out loud and consider which version you like the best and how it flows best for what your world is and the way they speak. Mary shakes her head at the woman and turns. Okay, she's not the woman. She's her wife. So I'd also I'd kind of omit that. Mary shakes her head and turns, and we're turning again. All right, you have a turning action that's what we're going to call a writing crutch, and you are leaning on a turning action like a crutch. And so what you want to do is we are going to highlight it in orange, and you would go back and search for it to see how many times you use it. And then what that'll do is show you, by me doing this, it's going to show you the crutch. Okay, I had to stop. I'm going to start preparing lunch for my sister. Okay, we're going to pick up right here. Bhakti interrupts. You and I both know we do not have time for that. We could be forced to move at any time. So you've got an echo on time really quick. You could easily use moment to swap out. That's an easy fix. Let's see. Mary shakes her head and turns, picking her bowl up off the table and stepping toward one of the windows at the end of the kitchen. She places another chunk of fruit into her mouth and reaches out to push the cloth covering the window to the side. She looks out into their small garden, goes silent for a moment, then mutters, "Well, we should at least try. The church gov has stayed away from the east for years at this point." Okay, so when she looks out over the garden and she goes silent, what does she see and what does she think? Okay. I kind of like the action there. She looks out over the small garden and goes silent for a moment, then mutters. So she sees that it's small. I just wonder, what does she think? What does she, is she worried? Is she just like, what does she think? I don't know. Because I don't know enough. I don't know what the church gov is. I don't know enough about the world to know, and about Mary to know how she thinks or feels. And so I can't answer it for you. But this is this would be a good spot to add some internal thoughts for Mary. Let me see what I got there. There we go. Okay. She stops and stares off into the distance for many minutes. Let's see. We don't need to say for how long. She can just stare off in the distance. Let's see. She stops and stares off into the distance. And we know we're still with her, so we don't need to say. She then says, I'll fill some bottles for the water sellers today, and we can take them into town to get some supplies. That'll at least keep us steady until I can score some data on a caravan movement. I hate to take from them, but if they're coming from Oasis, they can manage. I'll even toss in a bottle or two for the inconvenience. Bhakti finishes chopping and moves the chunks of fruit into a jar, which she seals with a metal lid. She speaks as she acts, saying, How long are we to live like this? Okay. So I don't know if we need a capital L on the live, and I don't think we need this at all. There we go. Mary says in response, If we raid a big one, we won't be hungry for at least a couple of months. So Mary says in response, we know it's her. I think you need a different action here. Or just go with Mary says, because we know that she's replying to Bhakti. There you go. Bhakti shakes her head and expounds on her thought. You know what I mean, having to rely on stealing from others. You said that we would make our way to Navnani many moons ago, and we have not made any progress in preparing for the journey. Mary closes the window covers and turns back to Bhakti, who is moving the jar of fruit into a crate in the corner. There are about 10 other small jars matching the one she is placing in the crate. Mary says, Well, we know we're with Mary, so we don't need to say that. We will. It takes time. Besides, the journey wears on you, and I don't know if you should be traveling long distances in this state. Mary eats another slice of fruit and places the now empty bowl on the counter as she steps back toward Bhakti. Okay. In what state? In what state? What is there a condition? Does Bhakti have something going on with her? Is this foreshadowing? Is this like what is it? What is it? What is her state? Are we going to find out? We're going to keep going and find out. All right. Bhakti sighs and rises from the crate, then rests her hands on her stomach. It will be much harder at the end of the year. The women meet each other's eyes, and Mary reaches out to rest her left hand on Bhakti's stomach. They lean into each other and meet in a long kiss. Okay, so we could use some internal thoughts from Mary, and they're both putting their hand on her stomach. Is she like pregnant or something? It's okay to be clear. And if you're implying something, you could still make it very clear through the implication. It's just I don't have any internal thoughts from Mary, so I don't know what's going on. And if she's pregnant, if putting her hand on the stomach after mentioning the state, then leave this. It's obviously foreshadowing to what it is. Okay, I'm not sure. I'm just trying to figure out. She's in a state, and now we're putting our hands on her stomach. I'm guessing she's probably pregnant or something's going on with her abdomen. Okay. That's what I'm guessing. So if my reader musings are correct, then you know you're on point and you can just delete all of this. Except I don't recommend having stomach twice in the same paragraph. I'd just reword a little bit. Bhakti says as their lips separate, I would like to have a sustainable life by then. Okay, so we're capitalizing life. Is it not? It seems intentional to me. So I changed it before. And now I kind of want to be like, I feel like it's intentional. If it's intentional, yeah, there, I took it off. Okay. Mary kisses her again. The smell of herbs brewing fills the kitchen. Okay, so the smell of herbs brewing seems like an afterthought. It just seems to hang out there. It doesn't really do anything for you. The herbs brewing would have been relevant, like, while their attention is on cooking, but not each other. Okay, so at this point, I'm guessing this is your entire short story. So this documents the entire short story, and I only read like first chapters. So I'm going to stop here and kind of like mark my stop with a color there. So if you want me to keep reading for you, I'm happy to. But I need to treat it like a second chapter. So if it's a short story and it's entire, like it's not a chapter, it's the full short story is what I'm guessing. Because like I'm like halfway through this document and I've done like, I don't know, how many words have I read? Let's see. I'm trying to figure out because like it's part 0. So if it's a part and not a chapter, and now I'm looking at the part differently than looking at it as chapter. I'm thinking this might be the whole entire thing, and I'm not able to read the entire document. Let's see. Where is our... We have a thing for word counts. There we go, right there. So that says 2,000 of 7. I could read to 3,000. Let's see, what's half of 7,558? Let's keep going for a little bit longer. Maybe we'll go to the next set of bullets. I'm trying to read like half of the story. Seems like that would be fair. I don't want to read the whole entire story in one read. Okay, so I'm also nearing 2 hours. So what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to read from, let me just mark this so I don't lose my spot. Is there another set of dots? Yeah, right, maybe right there. We'll read a little bit more. I mean, over here my bar shows me about halfway. So I wanted to at least get you half. I don't want to, yeah. Yeah, we're going to read from there to there. That's what we're going to do. Okay. Sol sits in the sky only a couple of hours from setting and shines down on Mary as she stands over 4 open bottles. Okay, I'm pausing already because is Sol a person now? I thought Sol was like the son, their son. I mean, it said that it was their son. So it's a noun. So, and it's okay if they call it Sol, but I'm thinking the way it reads is like it's a person. It's sitting in the sky. Because it doesn't say the soul, it says soul sits in the sky. So is this like an entity? The way the sentence reads, soul is like a person. It doesn't, if I could type, it doesn't say the soul sits in the sky, which would make it more like a noun, okay? Like the sun, like we're referring to an object. That's what we're going for. Object, all right? So we're not referring to an object. The way it reads is soul sits in the sky is like I'm imagining like a being hovering in the air. So that's the difference in the wording and the way that it reads. All right, I'll put notes in video. Okay, and then Sol sits in the sky only a couple of hours from setting and shines down on Mary as she stands over 4 open bottles. Through the clear bottles, the water level of them is seen slowly rising. I think we want rising in this situation. Until they reach the top, where Mary stops casting her magic and catches her breath. Okay, it's kind of a long sentence. Sol sits in the sky only a couple hours from setting and shines down on Mary as she stands over 4 open bottles. Period. The reason I'm suggesting that is when I kind of start getting into like, it's just long. You've almost got like 2 separate thoughts there. The first being about the sun and the second, the water level rising in the bottles. Okay, so you're switching thoughts from the bottles to from the sun to the bottles to Mary's magic. I do like how you tied it together, and I can now understand that she's using magic. And let's see. Yes, we're rolling. Let's keep going. She leans down, tightens their lids, then moves across the yard to collapse in the shade under a large tree next to Bhakti. Bhakti is rolling a yellow-green herb into a short piece of paper, and as Mary pants, she does not want to turn to the woman, but reaches outward. We missed a turn. I highlighted all your turns. I think they're all in orange. She does not turn to the woman, and the woman is distancing. This is her wife, which is intimate and personal. We don't want to refer to her as the woman. Bhakti is rolling a yellow-green herb into a short piece of paper, and as Mary pants, she does not turn to the woman, but reaches outward and moves a glass of green liquid next to her. All right, we don't need to have the saying. We're good there. Okay, you do not have to do it all today. You are wearing yourself thin. Between breaths, Mary says, Bhakti, I love you, but I know my limits. Mary picks up the glass and raises it to her lips, and Bhakti lets out a slight chuckle as she finishes rolling up the herb and retorts, if you knew, you would spread the work out. I do love that interaction. She places the roll-up between her index and middle fingers and holds it out in the direction of Mary, who is taking a large sip from the glass. Upon seeing the paper tube, Mary places the glass back on the ground and extends her left index and middle fingers together toward the roll-up, then takes a large breath of air in. She holds her breath for a moment, then exhales hard out her nose. A flicker of flame appears at the end of her fingers and catches the end of the paper on fire. Bhakti shakes the roll-up to turn the flame into a slight cherry at the end of the paper and pulls it to her lips. She inhales a puff of smoke into her mouth, exhales, then does this again before holding it out to Mary. Mary takes 3 hits off of the roll-up and passes it back to Bhakti. While not recovered physically, she feels some of her magical strength return. Okay. I think if we had some internal thoughts from Mary, like what is she thinking about? What does she think about her, whatever she's doing? What are her thoughts? It's just, I just don't know. See, like by now I want to feel closer to Mary. So I need her internal thoughts to help me care about her and the situation with her and Bhakti. What are her worries? What are her fears? What has she got on her mind? Let's see. Also, we kind of had, what did we have, like roll up? We have an echo on roll up. If it's a cigarette, call it a cigarette. If it's a, you know what, call it that. Shakes the roll up to turn the flame and slight cherry at the end, paper pulls it to her lips. She inhales a puff of smoke to her mouth, exhales, then does this again for holding out to Mary. Mary takes 3 hits off of the roll up and passes it back. I would say she takes 3 hits, then passes it back. You could probably eliminate all of this. You don't need it. Bhakti inhales from the herb again as Mary picks up the glass and takes another sip. After Bhakti's second hit, the woman passes the contents of their hands to each other. Mary raises the herb to her lips, but before inhalation, she says, I think I'll fill another 20 liters and finish for the day. Bhakti drinks from the glass as Mary fills her mouth with smoke. After exhaling, Mary says, I need a day of rest, but we can leave after. Bhakti cuts in and says, 2. She's not really interrupting. She kind of finished what her thought. You could say Bhakti, I don't want to say argues, because she's not arguing. She's just kind of stating. I mean, I don't know. She's not really cutting in, so she's not really interrupting her. If she interrupted her, I guess we'd have an incomplete thought from Mary. Yeah, so, okay, a little bit of tweaking there. All right. Mary takes a long hit of the roll-up. Oh, we've got roll-up again. And lots of hits, like lots of hits of it. Okay. Let's see. Mary takes a long hit of the roll-up and extends it out to Bhakti, who is taking another sip of the green liquid. Mary holds in the smoke, and after exhaling and taking a breath of air, she says, I'll need 2 days of rest, and if we leave when Soul hides, we'll get to Amitabha as people are waking. If we pack light, we can carry enough liters to get supplies and stay at the inn. I don't mind leaving some with the water sellers and traveling back for more food if we can't carry. Bhakti stops her thought process by saying, okay, this is the time to say Bhakti cuts her off. This is when Bhakti cuts her off. She's literally going to interrupt her. See, like your little symbol here tells me that it's an incomplete thought. So now Bhakti's interrupting her. And you just want to keep it short and sweet and say Bhakti cuts her off. Now is the time to say cuts her off. Here is where your here's where Bhakti can Bhakti can cut her off. Let me see if I can type. Yeah. This is where I would say that. Mary turns to, okay, so you don't need to state her name every time, and I would kind of omit all of this. And then we have we've leaned on the action of smoking the joint, basically, okay? So there's a whole lot of inhaling and puffing and inhaling and puffing and passing and inhaling and puffing and passing, and I just don't think we need all of it. I mean, we know what they're doing. So I'd probably rethink that and shorten it. It's like how many breaths they hold and all of that. It's not as important as the dialogue. They're smoking the joint and then they're talking. Bhakti, Mary passes the herb back after 3 hits and says, I'll be fine, as she grabs it. Bhakti corrects herself. I do not like being without you. Mary goes silent as she takes a hit. She holds in the smoke and hands the last hit to Bhakti, who takes the roll up and pushes it into the dirt. Yeah, without inhaling from it. So there's a whole lot of detail on the whole thing, and it's very. They inhaled, they held their breath. They did it for 3 hits. They did it for 2 hits, and I think you can just have them smoking the joint and talking. It's fine to take all of that out. Mary goes silent as she takes a hit. She holds in the smoke and hands the last hit back to Bhakti, who takes the roll up and pushes it into the dirt without inhaling from it. Mary exhales and the two sit in silence. Mary and Bhakti meditate under the tree. And that's the end of this part. Well, it's not. The part goes on, but I'm going to stop here because we are 2 hours in, and it is halfway through this part 1. So I'm gonna stop at this spot, and I'm just gonna mark it pink. And if you would like me to keep reading for you, I'm happy to do that. Hopefully, something I have said has been helpful for you, and I have enjoyed your story. I'm very curious about all of this. I'm wondering. I'm wondering if, and rather than plays on their actions, I'm really curious as to Mary's thoughts. So I'm kind of wondering what, if you go back and you feed those in, how is that going to change this story? Like all of a sudden I'm going to be really emotionally invested in it. I'm going to be like worrying for them, or what to, I mean, obviously they need to get food. Mary's using magic to, I guess, basically create water. That's what I gathered. And there's something, maybe Bhakti's pregnant. I'm not really sure. There was something with her abdomen, and there was something in her, the state that she's in. And so there's something up with her. I don't know what that is. But if we had Mary's internalizations and we had her, then we'd be tied to her. I don't even know her feelings, except for what I can derive from the actions. So if we pair her thoughts with with the actions, this is going to get a whole new layer to it. And I'm curious about what I'm trying to think about, the world. So I don't know. I was waiting to learn more about the world. I gather they don't have power. There's things I derived from it, and then there's things I wanted to know. I remember there was a bunch of names up in the beginning where I wondered what they were. Were they types of people? I remember them being back here, and I kept waiting to learn more about them. And then I tried to derive from the text, basically, the answers, because I really kind of haven't got them yet. Absolutely nothing as close as the revelation, but we don't know what that is. Mary could internalize some of the answers to some of these questions, perhaps. So let me have them. Let me read here and then tell you what my questions were. And Mary could internalize some of these and answer them for you, or answer them for the reader. Absolutely nothing as close as the revelation. I don't know what that is. But the soma, I don't know what that is, really encouraged that. Mary goes silent for a few moments, then asks, "What do you think about us hunting a nit?" I don't know what that is or who that is. I think it's a person. His is what tells me this is a person. This is a person. His technomag would be an issue. I don't know what a technomag is, but I'm guessing it's either a weapon or there was something else, like a radio device. I remember it would have to be some kind of communication device. But I could take them first before they sent word to the church gov. So I'm guessing that's the name of whatever their working government is, which that one's kind of self-explanatory from the text. So that's good. But as far to the point where I'm at, I still don't know more about a knit. I don't know more about those people. I don't know anything about their culture. I don't know anything about their personality types. I don't know anything about, what does Bhakti and Mary, what do they consider themselves? I know they're Elvinoid, but are they of like a rebellion? Are they just survivors? And if we had her internal thoughts, I think we'd get some of these answers. Like she could reflect at moments. And then what's going to happen is it's going to bring Mary to life. Like really, it's going to help her come forward. And then your reader will be invested in her when she has her thoughts and her feelings to support it. So rather than focusing on their actions when we write them, we want to have actions, but we want to weave them in among thoughts and feelings. And then we want the actions that they take to reflect those emotions. And then all of a sudden we will be super invested and really feel it. And then we look at avoiding adverbs and avoiding filter words. So there's layers, but I would do it in layers. So you've got a draft, and then you go through and you make a pass, and each pass you go through and look for a specific thing. And that is a great way to scrub your document and get it where you want it to be. So I appreciate you letting me read for you. Thank you for reaching out to me, and I am available if you want me to read the second half. And if you do, I have I'm only charging right now $5 for a read for every chapter after chapter 1. And there's a buy me a coffee link on my YouTube profile. So, and then just reach out and let me know, and I will add you to my queue. And guys, I will see you next time on Mystery Red Reads.